all for being here this evening. We are really pleased to have Adele Kristiansson here for, we think, perhaps the fifth time. She has come twice in her capacity as an EMS head of the town ambulance services, and she's come twice to talk about energy and healing. So we know and love Adele. And many of you know that she's a brain and healing science and vortex practitioner. In addition to giving healings to people and animals, she's also an animal communicator, a medium, and she practices remote viewing for psychic search and discovery cases with missing animals. She's also, as I mentioned, an EMT with the Southampton Volunteer Ambulance and a prayer chaplain with the New Thought Spiritual Center of Eastern Long Island. She combines practical understanding of biology and physiology with metaphysical applications of prayer and intention. Her interest in healing began 10 years ago. Before that, she spent 30 years as a businesswoman in the corporate and not-for-profit sectors, where she specialized in marketing, advertising, public relations, program development, and public advocacy. It's a pleasure to have her here. Please welcome Adele Kristiansson.
Thank you for joining us this afternoon. I just want to make sure this is so welcome to my presentation. Today we're going to look at the dynamics of listening to our animals. And what we're going to explore today is what it's like to communicate telepathically, and how do we recognize that tap on the shoulder, right, when our calling has arrived and our gift is being ready to be opened. And we'll learn a little bit about the dynamics of telepathy, how it works, and how we can appreciate the mystery and integrity of mindful communication. And we'll also start with a few ways on how to build our own telepathic muscle. So how does that sound for 59 minutes? So 10 years ago, I had no idea I'd be making a living talking to animals. I didn't think I had the gift. And but what I did know is that I wanted to develop my high sense perception. Now, some people call this ESP, but in Brennan we learned it's high sense perception because everybody has it, and it's like a muscle. The more you work it out, the better you get at it, and the better your high sense perception becomes. So everybody in this room, you all have high sense perception. And you all have your own unique abilities and gifts and ways that you use it and receive information with it. And the first thing that you need to remember is, don't worry about making it up. Did I make that up? Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. There are no wrong answers. Well, maybe in another lecture we'll talk about wrong answers. So as I began to develop my energy healing practice, which did involve 4 years at school, strange, inexplicable events started to happen. And my father, who's a pragmatist, he created a new file, and it cannot be denied. And eventually I started to file more occurrences into the it cannot be denied file because it couldn't. And it kind of is what it is, and things happen and life is strange. And that's the wonderful thing about communicating and what animals have to share with us is that life is amazing and it keeps getting stranger. So soon I was filing a lot of these events under that heading, and I surrendered to a power greater than myself. And that's when things started to really change. So as an energy healer, I know that everything is made up of energy, and energy is consciousness. a dog, a cat, a moth, a flock of birds, a tree, a forest, a flower, a spinal cord, a blister, a cancer cell, bacteria, parasites, fungus, all have consciousness. You can connect with it, you can find out what it wants, you can find out where it hurts, you can find out what it's forgotten, you can find its secrets, you can understand its emotions. Even our group or a situation has a consciousness. So once we open ourselves to achieving true contact, we can communicate with anything, alive or dead, because energy continues. So just because someone passed through this dimension doesn't mean that you can't connect with them and communicate with them. So here are some of the teachers who have taught me how to listen and explore the mystery that surrounds us. Who here has an animal? All right, so just kind of call out the kind of animal you have. I did have a microphone.
Oh, I think Rick has it.
Rick has it, but just kind of call out your animal type and name. Annie? Addie is a
Dog.
what kind?
Oh, she's a miniature poodle.
Addie miniature poodle.
Havanese dog, and it's male, and it's
Scooter Havanese.
Havanese as well, male, Barkley, and then we have a white-haired dachshund, Wasti.
Wasi Dachshund, Barkley Havanese.
Border collies.
Who? Border Collie. He or she?
She,
Is
two of them,
her name
Tilly and Sophie.
Tilly and Sophie?
And this one is Casey, the initials KC, and it's a Heinz dog.
A Hans dog, Casey.
Heinz,
Okay.
57 variety.
In the flesh, in the hairy furry
Right.
flesh. What about over here?
Boomer is a Havanese.
Havanese what?
Male Havanese. Boomer.
Boomer
They're a
and
golden doodle.
Rudy a golden doodle.
Daisy is a Schnauzer wide-haired dachshund.
Schnauzer wire-haired dachshund.
We have a Vishla pit mix.
Vishla Pit.
She's Stella.
Stella. Okay. Who else?
I have Daisy also. She's a lamb.
Maisie a lab.
Ziggy.
Ziggy a dachshund.
Marley is a golden doodle.
Marley a golden doodle. Hey, how are you, Allison?
Jackson and Jackson and Charlotte, they're both from a rescue. Charlotte's a Shih Tzu mix, and Jackson is like maybe an Australian Shepherd or Springer.
And you also work with horses. What are some of their names?
Popeye, Atlantis, Lee, Zolta Lily, Little Lily, everyone, Crown.
Okay, so all these animals, we're going to invite them here energetically to join us. Who else do we have? Yes.
Teddy.
Teddy, Yorkie Poo.
4 dogs living at the moment. One is Whiskey, Loosely, one is Charlie, Ladybug, Sadie, Chulaluka, and one.
Wow.
They're all rescued.
All rescues. Yes. Joy, Flower, and Bunny, all labs. And right here, somebody's person.
Who's cats?
Yeah, oh, the cat, yeah, we're over here. Do you guys want to sit on top of the chairs maybe? What are the names?
Mine is Grady, and he's sort of Maine Coon, he's very large.
Oh,
He's bigger
Maine
than Cordy.
I grew up with Maine Coon. And you?
I've got Whitey Matter, who's a white cat, and then outside of front is a tiger cat.
Okay. And Louis the horse? Okay.
Stay.
into the space with us, okay? So we're just gonna bring them in. See how the field shifts a little bit. It feels cool, doesn't it? There's a lot of animal consciousness that travels with people. And one of the things that I've learned is that animals travel with us telepathically, and they know what we're doing during the day. I know this because they talk about it, and they talk about the concerns, and they can see through your eyes. They know some cats I know work with their people on the phone. They help them with their business and their phone conversations. I've talked with cats who are more concerned about what their person is packing for the business trip than what the person's concerned about, which is tell my cat I'm leaving. It's like, she knows, but she doesn't want you to take the shoes that pinch your feet. She wants you to take the blue pantsuit. And she's like, oh my God, I was just trying on shoes that hurt me. So they are very involved in our lives, and don't doubt for a moment that they could not be here with us today. So tell me, with all these animals that we live with, has anybody in this room ever suddenly realized, oh my God, I have to feed the cat or the dog dinner? And then you look over and you see them, right? They're just looking at you, and you wonder, whose idea was that anyway? Was that my idea, or was that their idea? And that's how my journey started with my cat Sasha. And what I realized years later was that wasn't my thought, that was her thought. And my first experience of a telepathic communication was I was on the receiving end, not the sending end. I thought it was my bright idea. It was her bright idea. So let's look a little more closely at common telepathic experiences that we have every day. Who here trusts your gut? Do you have a good belly barometer? And do things sometimes have to pass the belly test? I do. And the only time I'm upset is when I don't listen to my gut. So gut feeling is an intuition, and that's one of the high sense perceptions that we utilize when we're working with our telepathic communication. A gut feeling is not a rational linear thought. It doesn't rest on a logical cause and effect scenario, but it's like a vague suspicion. It's like a not fully formed thought out of the corner of your eye. And you kind of go with it because it demands our attention, right? Sometimes you get it punches you in the gut, right? It was like a punch in the gut. So it's like something that might not be in front of you, but you suspect it, like something's not right here. Or what if my cat Pad has a fatal flaw? And I had that suspicion. Like 3 weeks before I learned he had feline leukemia, but the information arrived to me. Or an intuition might arrive as a punch in the stomach, like, I gotta get out of here. And I've learned to listen to the punch in the stomach. Or maybe you've had a feeling that arrives fully grown in your head, a direct knowing, and it's so strong there's no doubt whatsoever. Has anybody ever had that, where it's like you hear the whole thought from the beginning of the sentence to the end? You hear all the words. It's a complete thought. I saw a couple of hands go up. Anybody else? Okay, another hand went up. The most profound and portentous one that I ever had was, within 7 days you will undergo tremendous hardship. You will learn to listen to yourself and to me more closely than ever before. And that was the morning my cat, Little Bear, disappeared. It's like, it arrived, right like that, when I was meditating. So maybe you take these experiences for granted, or maybe like me, you think, this is really cool, and I want to learn everything I can about it. So how does our intuition, direct knowing, and our high sense perception figure into interspecies telepathic communication or animal whispering? Let's take the word telepathy apart and see what the dictionary has to say about the two parts. So tele means transmission over a distance, as in a telephone or a television or a telegraph, or we telecommute. Pathy is Greek, and it indicates to feel or sensitivity or to perceive, as in sympathy or empathy. So when you combine the two, you have transmission of feeling or sensitivity or perception over a distance. So think about that for a minute. Over a distance. So how does it get from here to there? Or from there to here? But yet we can all do it. So I can be in one place, my animal can be in another, and I can feel into what they are experiencing or know what they want me to know. How cool is that? So how do we discover if we can do this? Now, I stumbled across this quite unexpectedly, and my first remote viewing occurred simultaneously about 6 years ago. This is Pippin, and he belongs to my sister. And one day, Pippin was missing. And she called me up and she said, could you, look for him? And this was really funny because she wouldn't let me touch her as a healer. She's like, I don't want that voodoo. I don't want you touching me. But it was the story shifted when she had a need. And she called me after I'd been doing a meditation, and I didn't think twice about helping her, right? Because Pippin was gone. So I just literally, I took my heart and I expanded my heart to it. And I got really quiet. And I just went to Pippin. I didn't know where he was, but I just intended to be with him. And the first thing that I felt was, wow, it's cold, damp dirt underneath his paws. It's cold. And then I saw a window well, and I kept getting stuck. I'm like, how can he be stuck? He could jump out of the window well, right? That was my left brain trying to make sense out of what I was getting. And I'm like, I don't know where he is. Where is he? Suddenly, it's like I'm panning in a movie camera, and I'm now looking out from my sister's kitchen window over the woods in her backyard. And my vision's being taken. It's just following. And I'm like, so where are we? Then I go around, I see a house with a circular driveway. And then I ask, so where's Pippin? And I see a blue piece of material. It's like, well, what is it? It's a tarp. Is it a tarp for a swimming pool? No, it's a tarp for the outside of an air conditioner. Pippin, show me where you are. What do you see? And I see white lines over me. I don't know what that means. So I call my sister up and I say, all right, well, I don't know for what it's worth. It's like all these little fragments, these little pieces of information. I feel like I have him. Not only that, but he hurts. Like I can feel his pelvis hurts. And I asked him what happened, and I see him hanging from like a tall branch or a piece of wood, and he must have dropped. So she's like, okay, I'll go out in the back. I know where to go in the backwoods. I'll look for a blue tarp. And I said, for some odd reason, take your cats with you. She's like, oh, my cats are looking for me. I'm like, your cat will take you right to where Pippin is. But I knew he was stuck. So she goes off. She takes off out of the woods. She sees a black cat. And meanwhile, I am now connecting with Pippin saying, I don't know where you are, but you gotta let her know. She's looking for you. You gotta peek out or something. She sees the black cat. The black cat starts to run toward a deck. And Piggy kind of just pops his head out. He was stuck, not in a window well. He was next to a window well. He was stuck because the cat was marauding him. The cat had chased him up something. He'd fallen. He was under the deck, And that's what the white lines were. It was the light between the planks, right? And I told my father this, and it's like, it cannot be denied, right? I found the cat. She got to the cat, but it was all these disparate little details that arrived. And nobody was more surprised than me when that happened. And I thought, wow, maybe I got something here. And here's what I learned from that. Images drop in piece by piece. It's not like this flesh story. It's like a little piece of a mosaic that starts to build. And you have to wait patiently. And once it starts to flow, it keeps coming. You got to prime the pump, and the information will continue to pump. When it stops, you want to pop in your left brain. It's like, well, what does that mean, right? Because I was assuming he's stuck. He could jump out of the window well. No, he was stuck because the other cat had him cornered. So I was trying to make sense, but I was way off on that. So I learned is you can't try and make sense out of it right away. You have to just keep allowing the information to come. So later I learned that this great result was beginner's luck and never expect it again. I mean, that's what I was told. And it makes sense, right? When you do something new for the first time, you don't have performance anxiety. You don't know what you don't know. And it comes a lot easier. But actually what I've learned is not knowing when you're communicating with animals is the safest place to be. Because when you think you know, you have an investment in a particular outcome. But when you know that you don't know and you're willing to be curious and open, that's when the information can come in. So not knowing is the safest place to be. Now, how many people feel comfortable going to their boss and saying, well, I don't know, right? We're paid to know. We're paid to have answers. That's how we operate in our culture. And not knowing is countercultural. So I started studying with Penelope Smith, who's one of the best animal communicators in the continent. And she has two really great questions that she will always ask an animal. The first one is, what do you want me to know? The second one, which I really like, is, what are your secrets? Think about that. What would an animal have as a secret, right? So during lunch break, I came across a stick bug. And I brought him into my heart field, and I transmitted to him, and I just sort of felt through my heart, what are your secrets? Well, I was really surprised at what I got. If you want to know the secrets, eat the eggs. Think about it for a minute. It's really fascinating. This is a predator who eats eggs. This bug is telling me that the genetic information of a species is encoded in the egg. And that by eating eggs, he decodes what he needs to know about his prey. That's how he learns his secrets. That's pretty amazing. I was astounded. It's so simple, but it's so amazing. So this is one righteous stick bug. And what I'd like you to do is take a moment and sit back in your chair. Get your feet comfortably on the floor, both feet on the floor. Take a moment to quiet your mind. So just draw a little blue curtain over your mind and get it cool and calm. And now open your heart and expand your heart field to touch this stick bug and bring the stick bug into your heart field. Now track for us, or for yourself first, what arises in your awareness. I'm going to need that microphone now. So, what arises in, sorry about that. What arises in your awareness when you look at this stick bug and when you open yourself to feel it? All right, let's juice it a little. What would it feel like to have a head shaped like that? How would that feel? Like, just imagine how it would feel to be inside a head like that. What might that shape inform you of? Like, just feel into it. What do you get? Just call it out. Scissor. It feels scissory to you? And do you get that as a feeling, Adrienne? Okay. And how about you?
As soon as I closed my eyes, I got a really strong message, whether it's for him or not. It just was be very, very still.
Be very, very still. I can believe that about him, can't you? Anybody else? What arrived? There's no wrong answers here.
He's heading north.
He's what?
Heading north.
He's heading north. So you got a direction. Okay. Anybody else?
Alert. He's just very alert.
He's very alert.
He's vulnerable.
He's what?
Vulnerable.
He's vulnerable because we can see him, right? So if we can see him, we could kill him.
Feel the sun.
You feel the sun. Anybody else?
Warmth, kind of,
Now, do you feel the warmth on him or inside him?
like on the ground. I mean, like I feel it rising up.
Oh, so. Okay, so she feels it rising up from the ground. Anybody else get any other sensations or intuitions or direct knowings about this stick bug? So look, yes, Renee.
Fear of getting stepped on. Fear of getting stepped on.
Fear of getting stepped on. So we've gotten several awarenesses about vulnerability, and we've gotten several awarenesses that were kinesthetic about the feeling of the stick bug in the environment. We got an awareness about the feeling of the shape and being inside the shape of that bug. So see how these awarenesses start to arrive, right? And they're using different aspects of your senses, right? To feel the heat, that's a kinesthetic sense. To feel the predator, the fear of a predator, that might be intuitive, right? To feel he's facing north, that's like direct knowing, right? And that's very interesting because I would imagine this amazing apparatus tells him a lot, right? So my most patient and articulate teacher has been my cat Little Bear, whose mission has been to teach me as an animal communicator. And I think he does this as much for the animals as he does for me. And when I returned from my studies with Penelope Smith, I couldn't wait to go to Little Bear and ask him, what do you want me to know? And he showed me what he wanted me to know. So he was flashing images into my head, and this will be a way that you can receive from your animals. In your mind screen, you will get a picture, or you will get what you think is part of a picture, and you can be still and ask them to fill in the picture. So what I did with this next slide is I built for you the series of pictures as best I could as they arrived in my mind. So his images arrived very softly in my awareness until they framed the whole picture that he wanted to convey. So the first thing that he showed me was my neighbor in his camo hunting cap. The second thing that he showed me was something over my neighbor's shoulder, and I wasn't able to figure out, is it a gun? Is it a bow? And then I asked him for more detail, and I got arrows. So now I knew my neighbor had a hunting cap on, and he had bow and arrows. And then Bear showed me the woods in the backyard. And about 4 or 5 minutes later, I looked out my office window, and I saw my neighbor and his friend dragging a dead buck that they had just shot. So this was the first thing that Bear ever told me. Well, it was the first thing I ever understood that he told me. He might have been talking all along and I just wasn't hearing. But what I realized was that the simple act of listening openly and hearing what was on Bear's mind, it changed our relationship forever. And the importance of being listened to and truly heard is huge, and it's healing in itself. Pure contact is the most healing understanding we can ever achieve with another, whether that's a person or an animal. And from this day forward, I never deluded myself into thinking I was Bear's mommy. And he was never again my pet. I don't use that word. I realized that Bear is my equal. I also learned a lot about receiving information. Data arrives in fragmented, nonlinear pieces and shapes. Like a mosaic, the pieces fit together. And like the painting on the right by Picasso, and this actually is known by remote viewers as the Picasso effect. Because remember, Picasso's cubism was about observing from multiple perspectives simultaneously, and that's a lot like telepathy and non-local connection. You are observing from many perspectives simultaneously. And the data enters our awareness in a steady stream, like feathers. And it enters our central nervous system, which interprets it and translates it into feelings or images or sounds or words or tastes or direct knowing without words. The next thing that Little Bear did was he encouraged me to sharpen my technique. He wanted me to relax in my receptivity, and he was happy to show me how. And Bear had communicated with me through pictures before, but this time he used words, and his voice sounded in my head like a 7-year-old little boy, very young, clear, and simple, and very undefended. And this is what he said. He said, when you hold yourself to receive my thought, hold your heart open. as you would a hand ready to receive a feather floating down from the sky, that my thought might land lightly upon it, without being crushed by the tight fist of your need to know. That's pretty profound from a pussycat. Little Bear is asking me to hold myself in the still point of not knowing. That is where we go to listen when we listen to our animals. Now go inside yourself for a minute and ask yourself, how often in today's rush, 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 gotta do world am I encouraged to rest in the still point of not knowing? Being still and not having an answer, and being completely open to whatever arrives. How strong do we want is our impulse to override this? Now tell me, does this animal seem to you to understand still point? So Little Bear had just given me a powerful gift, and let's just take a closer look at the physiology of Bear's wisdom. First, he's telling us how to connect and how to receive. When we rest in the still point of not knowing, our mind is blank. Nothing there. We're relaxed, curious, detached, and expectant. Next, when we open our heart, we engage our strongest power center and our deepest wisdom. Your heart is the most powerful generator of electromagnetic energy in the human body. It produces the largest rhythmic electromagnetic field of all the organs in the body. We can extend our heart field as far as we want, and we can bring anyone we want into it, which is how I can communicate with the horse that's in Wellington, Florida, when I'm in New York, or a dog that's in California when I'm in New York. I just expand my heart field and I take it straight to the animal. And you can do that to your animals now, sitting right here in this room. Our heart field is modulated by our different emotional states, and it transmits information and receives information from others. And when we transmit and receive energy and emotion, this is called resonance. So when Little Bear guided me not to crush his thoughts in the fist of my need to know, he was guiding me to bring my awareness to the still point of not knowing. Now physically, this rests right between the two hemispheres of our brain, between the right hemisphere and the left hemisphere. And in the right side is where we receive telepathic signals, thoughts, feelings, pictures, emotions from our target animal. And this is where the feather of Little Bear's thought is going to land in my head, or the feather of your animal's thought is going to land in your head. And you can actually ask Spirit, let me recognize this arriving in my right side of my brain. And you will feel it land in your right side. And if you feel something land in your left, it's likely you're imagining it. So you can make an agreement, and you can do it the way you want to do it. When our left brain wants to make sense out of the signal we receive, and it wants to know the answer or figure out the meaning of what we're getting, we're hopping to the left brain. That stops the information from flowing. And that's how it closes Little Bear's thoughts down. So what he's telling me is if I'm not careful, my left brain will run away with the session, and he won't be able to get a thought in edgewise, and I'll be fantasizing. So that's why the number one rule in animal communication mediumship, remote viewing, any type of telepathic receptivity is surprise. If you're surprised, like you want to know the secrets, eat the eggs, I was surprised. That was not my thought. And surprise is a big indicator that it's not your thought. It's somebody else's thought. When I began studying remote viewing with the spy masters of the CIA Stargate program, I learned that if you're surprised, you're on signal. And it's not your thought. If the story is flowing smoothly and embellished, you're fantasizing and you're not on signal. And you've got to take yourself out of your left brain and bring yourself back into your right brain. So let's try this, okay? Let's try this now. So relax in your chair and still your mind. Get comfortable and breathe in and out and allow your breath to release all past moments and all future moments from your mind. Let's quiet our minds and let's open our hearts and listen to these faces. So just raise your hand and state what it is you receive. And we're going to start from the top left, okay? What emotions do you sense from this animal? And just feel with your heart, not with your head. Cut your head off at the neck. Put the awareness of your heart right there. And just receive straight from there. And what information starts to arrive? And it may not seem logical, it may seem silly, and that's fine.
Pity.
Pity?
I don't know why.
That's what you got. You got pity. Anybody else? What? Funny. Yes.
Like really relaxed.
Relaxed. I can't hear.
Like relaxed.
Relaxed.
Yeah.
Okay, relaxed. Anybody else?
Hungry.
Hungry.
Fear.
Fear. I'm feeling something about, it feels to me like a male, and I'm feeling something about the age. Like, this feels like an old animal to me. Actually, this feels like an unhappy animal to me. I'm not feeling joy.
Like he's gonna throw up.
He does not look happy. You felt pity, right? Anybody else? Yeah. Help me. Help me. Yes.
It's meditating.
Oh, you feel he's meditating, and you might be informed by this, right? Because that looks like a meditative stance. Anybody else? He's looking for,
He needs a hug.
he needs a hook.
A hug.
A hug. He needs a hug. He seems incomplete in a way, doesn't he? And you're right, there's something supplicant but not balanced in the relationship with whoever is taking that photograph. Anybody else? Okay, how about this face? What do you get from this guy? It's a sloth, yeah. It took him 4 days to create that smile.
Feels mischievous.
Curious, mischievous. Anybody else? Don't edit yourselves. Just let it come out.
I like it this way.
He's saying, I like it this way. How about you, Renee? He's happy. Anybody else? I feel happiness from that face. I feel a sense of he knows who he is. I don't feel that from this animal. This animal feels very self-possessed. This animal does not. How about this face? And what I want you to do is feel where you receive him in your body. Like, look at him and just allow him to come in and register where do you feel him arrive in your body. You feel it in your stomach, angry. Does anybody else, you feel it in your stomach too? Anybody else? Shoulders. Pushed back. What else do you feel? Neck. You feel it in your neck. What do you feel? Do you feel a weight or a strain? So we're feeling pressure and tension, right? Does he feel happy to you? No, he doesn't feel happy. Where do you feel his emotion?
Like, stay away from me.
Stay away from me.
Yeah.
How does your stomach feel to feel into him? You were going to say?
He makes me feel like, he makes me remember Michael, Coco's friend Michael. And it's very intense. He's very intense.
I can't tell if it's happy or angry or anything else, but it's very intense, strong emotion, like
Very intense.
like Coco's friend Michael.
Right. Did you want to share? Well,
Or confused, consternation, right?
He wants to know more.
Anybody else? How about these two? Love. Does this cat trust this cat?
Yes.
Yeah. Right? And can you feel the protective embrace
Yes.
energetically? And he makes everything all right, doesn't he? Yes, he's very strong and protective, isn't he? And he creates a field. Can you feel the field that he creates? What about this guy?
He's going to give me advice. Waiting.
Waiting.
worry.
Anything else? Worried? Worried. I'm tired of this. How about this? Feel into it. Keep going. It's hard to stay with this one, isn't it? I believe this child is dead. This is very upsetting, isn't it? I feel it down here. So we can feel animals and what they have to communicate. It registers as sensations in our body. It registers as emotions. We can hear words. We can feel thoughts. What animals say always surprises me, and I have a client here. This is one client with 3 of her horses. And last year she called me from Europe where she'd been competing in the World Cup with the bay on the left. And she wanted me to comfort him when his flight home had been delayed from in Belgium for several hours. So I said, okay, I'll connect with him. And when I connected with him, he wasn't scared. He was pissed. And I was surprised. So I thought, all right, I'm surprised. This is good, right? This is a good connection. But he sounded more like a fat cat businessman in the first class lounge than he did about, and what he said was, frankly, I expected more from Lufthansa. And I'm like, oh my God. This horse knew he was flying Lufthansa, and he knows the difference between Air France and Lufthansa. And so I talked with my client the next day. Well, let me continue. So he assured me he was fine. He was hydrated, but I got this feeling like, I don't know, there's something about the 23rd Psalm that I need to say right now to comfort him. So I started to say it. And I felt him get calmer. And then I finished the session and I talked later with my client. And the next day she said, yes, she hadn't known what he was flying, but she found out from his trainer that he was flying Lufthansa. And not only that, but her mother had been saying the 23rd Psalm at the time I was doing the session. So I was picking up on the prayer that was being received by the animal I was communicating with. So that showed me prayer works, and we can feel it. The horse felt it, and I felt the horse feeling it. So that was pretty amazing to me. So I've learned a lot working with this rider and her horses for the past couple of years. This championship jumper is very status conscious about his placement in a barn, particularly when he's on the road competing. And he wants to be placed in a certain spot, whether it's near the entrance or whichever horses he's across from. And he's very particular, and he says, hey, this is why you love me. I'm the best, and it's why you prize me. I am prize. And he believes that 90% of the competition is waged outside the ring. And he will hold mental warfare with his competitors outside the ring. And he assesses them outside the ring. I remember at one point when they were in Rome, he sounded like a military commander. He told her how he wanted his team assembled, waiting for him before he presented himself, that he wanted everybody speaking sotto voce, right? Soft voice. He wanted them with precision in their movement and in their emotional well-being and in how they regarded him. And there was one vet who he refused to allow examine him. And he used the name Pedro. I'm like, what's about Pedro that he can't examine you? And he showed me, like, you know when you shake a can and then you pop the top and the carbonation flies? And I told my client, this is what he's showing me. She's like, oh my God. In Mexico City, Pedro examined him, and he was going to give him an IV, and he missed the jugular, and all the blood was spurting out. So that was how he showed me what had happened and how determined he had become that he's not touching me. And my client agreed, okay, we will never let that vet touch you. And so he was very clear on who on the circuit he wants to examine him. The other thing is he likes nothing better than to drop a steaming dump as he walks by an adversary. And he says, I learn a lot from the smell of a dump, what they're thinking and how they feel. And he can also gauge the fear content in the dump. So he will smell that. Now, one strong personality who supports this bay when he's on the road is the stallion in his fold, this gray. And this stallion is amazing. He's like this telepathic cell tower, and all the horses in his field link up to him. Not only that, but he knows how they're performing and he knows how they're doing when he's still in Pennsylvania and they're out on the road. He's connected with them. And this has informed me a lot about having balls. The stallion is intact, and I feel that this has strengthened the pineal gland in his brain, and he just has this amazing receptivity of all the horses, and he's such a finely attuned receptor, and he can communicate. And I've told my friend, you know, you could ride him even when he's in Pennsylvania and you're on your bay. You could be riding more than one horse because they're that telepathically linked and they're willing to support each other that way. So one last thing before we close, I'll end with this story. This particular stallion arrived in Wellington for the winter, and upon arriving, he became fearful, disgruntled, edgy. He began pacing in his stall. Nothing could console him. And my client called me and said, Adele, you got to help him out. He's acting like there's a predator around. I said, well, are there any coyotes? And then I Google Earthed like Wellington. It's like a crisscross of barns. You know, I don't think there's many coyotes, but he was like in top security, and yet he was panicked. And so I had asked for photos of the barn, and I asked, is he looking in any one particular direction that the danger could be coming in, so that we might be able to perceive more about the threat. So just open yourselves to these photos like you did the other photos, and tell me what you pick up from these photos. There's a storm, yeah, you're right. This is Florida, and it was gray skies. Is there any one photo here that says anything to you? Or maybe there's a couple.
The electrical wires.
The electrical wires, but you're picking that photo. That photo spoke to me. That photo totally creeped me out. And I got really engaged. And when you look at that photo, where does it land in your body? Do you feel it in your stomach? I feel it in my gut. And there's something about that photo that makes me alarmed. And so I asked her which direction was that. Actually, I learned later after my session. So when I started my session, I was looking at these photos and I realized I'm jumping from photo to photo and I'm not like staying with one. And it took me a moment to realize, wait, I'm in the Gray's field. That's how he's feeling. He's all edgy and I'm in that and I'm feeling that. This isn't me, this is him. And this is what it's like. He's jumping out of his skin. So when I connected with him, the only one coherent thought I could get from him was, usually I can handle this. I'm usually much better at this. But he was like, blah, 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 blah. I'm telling my client, you know, I can't get a coherent thought out of the poor horse. And something is totally twitching him out. What could it be? Well, sometimes when you're communicating with animals and you can't get information from one, you go to another. Now, I decided to ask Fish. Fish is a barn dog whose person is a trainer for this fold of horses. And he roams freely, he knows all the horses, and he runs errands for the stallion. And as you can tell by his face, he's very loyal and he takes his job very seriously. And Fish said, well, it's the buzz around the barn. Check out the other side of the highway. We think there's a dead horse that hasn't been discovered. And I asked Fish, what do you know? And he said, I'm no expert, but our stallion is smelling something I don't, and I'm not his rank. That's what Fish said, I'm not his rank. I could look if he tells me to, but it's across the road and I would need a ride in the truck. So if the stallion had asked Fish to do that, Fish would have gone to his person and tried to get a ride. He would have done as best he could have to get them to look around. So I gave our stallion a healing, and I grounded him, and I relieved the fear and the stress and the anxiety. And what I kept picking up was he was carrying a load of others. And I released the fear of the anxiety, and I placed a shield over the whole barn. Like I structured just an energetic shield to keep him safe. And when I was working on him, I couldn't help but see an animal lying on his belly. Now, this photo came to me a day later. It's like, was I seeing him lying down relaxed, or was I seeing another animal? And I kept seeing a distended belly, and then I felt like I'm got pebbles underfoot, and I'm slipping, and I'm falling, and I'm kind of in a ravine, losing my footing, and it's pebbly and dusty, and I'm being led somewhere, and then I feel a sharp pain in my neck and I drop. And I'm thinking, okay, this is a remote viewing session. This is not our stallion. I'm connecting with what's causing him his fear. And it felt like the scene was being played out about 3.5 miles away in the direction of that middle photo, right? So that middle photo, remember the one we all felt kind of like, eh? It was like 3 miles looking that way, that had his nose twitching, and he was so upset. And the next day after the healing, my client sent me this photo saying, finally, after 2 weeks, he's sound asleep. So that was a good thing. But I was thinking, so what was bugging him? You know, what was bugging the poor guy? 2 days later, she sent me a link to this story in the Palm Beach Post. Horse's head found in acreage canal. Animal control seeks tips. Officials learned that the very decomposed horse head with a bullet hole in its skull late Monday in a canal near Citrus Grove Boulevard and 130th Avenue North. So she suspected illegal slaughtering, but emphasized how hard it is to pinpoint the culprits. This is what had taken down our stallion. Think about that for a minute. He was so sensitive, he felt this horse's death from 3 miles away. But even worse is, what was upsetting him, I think, is that the human-equine contract had been violated. You know, it's like, we're horses, we perform for you, you take care of us, we do our job, you do yours. But this horse had been kidnapped and slaughtered. And it had undone our stallion. And it had knocked him for a loop. And he had been upset for 2 days. That is how sensitive he was to the plight of the other horse. So here's what I've learned about animal whispering. Animals enrich our world and our lives, and we can listen to and talk with animals. Animal communication is deep, direct, and authentic contact. We use our intention to connect and surrender to what we receive. Animals are our equals. Animals are here to teach us. The better we listen, the more we learn. I no longer use the P word, I don't say pet. Pet implies ownership or enslavement and dominance, and I don't want to have that rapport with my animals. Animals have brought me to unimaginable places and shared remarkable mystery, and for that I am grateful. And thank you so much for sharing with me.
Adele will take a few questions. But before she takes them, since I have to leave, I want to thank her for a really wonderful session here. And I also want to mention that here at the library on July 13th, and you may know this already, we have a return visit from a really extraordinary guy named Tim Hayes, who is a horse whisperer, who works with horses and humans and PTSD survivors and explains, he wrote this wonderful book, which we have at the library, about the power of horses to heal. And it's pretty extraordinary, and Joanna put out flyers for this one event in July. We have a lot going on, but do pick one up. I'm going to have to go, but you all stick around because they'll probably be willing to take questions, and I want to thank her so much for being here, and thank you for coming.